What's up with Bell?
Okay, I'd like to call to order our meeting. This is a town board meeting of Wednesday, March 11th, 2015, and I'd like to ask our clerk, Christian Sampson, who is the president of all the clerks in the state of New York, the 932 towns. He's the president. We're proud of you.
Thank you.
And we'd like to ask you to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Councilman Ullman.
Here.
Councilman Friedman.
Here.
Councilwoman Charles. Councilman Deputy Supervisor Withers.
Present.
Supervisor St. Lawrence.
Here. I'd like to ask Councilman Ullman to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to take some things a little bit out of order tonight, and we're going to start right off with some personnel items, and that will be number 3 on the agenda, personnel, and our Director of Personnel, Linda Condon.
Good evening.
Good evening, Linda.
Item 3A is a resolution to appoint Louis Manganello of Suffern, New York, maintenance helper in Parks and Recreation.
Withers?
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers. Friedman. Seconded by Councilman Friedman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Congratulations. Dave. Come on up.
Congratulations. You're welcome.
Let's hear it for Lou. Lou has been working for the town for 3.5 years as a seasonal worker, and his father, Lou, is here, and is our cameraman as well here, and I know you're very proud of him, Lou. And we are as well, and his mom is here as well. Congratulations, Lou.
Mr. Supervisor, does that mean we have another Green Bay Packer fan working for the
No,
town?
he's not a Green Bay Packer fan, are you? You are? We may
I
want to
take it
rescind
back.
that resolution. Well, the Green Bay Packer fans had it tough this year. That was a terrible loss they had, so... It
was a great
we
call.
let it go.
The next item is 3B. It's
Yes,
a
Linda.
resolution to establish a grounds worker position in the Parks and Recreation Department.
Moved by
Withers?
Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Supervisor St. Lawrence. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously.
And the last, 3C, is a resolution to appoint Stephen Belwich, a grounds worker in the Parks and Recreation Department.
Withers?
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Let's hear it for Steve. Steve has worked for the town for over 4 years as a seasonal with no days off, and he's a hard worker, and we're really glad to have you, Steve, on as full-time. And to everyone else, I want to note that we are down about 3 or 4 people in the Parks Department, 5 people. The director just let me know. One was, unfortunately, the untimely death of Ron Cole last year. And so this is, these 2 hires here, although it says establishing a ground position, it's really filling a Ron Cole's position, which is a maintenance mechanic 1. So there's some savings here, and the great thing is that we have 2 workers who have proven themselves over the past 3-4 years, and we're glad to have them on as a permanent employee. So congratulations. Great job. Linda, that's it?
That's it.
We have a new business item under personnel. We'll save that till, you want to do that now?
If you want to get over it,
Yeah.
we can do it now. We
Sure.
have a resolution which accepts the resignation of a custodial worker in the town of Ramapo, Michael Sasser.
Moved by
Withers?
Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you, Michael.
Okay?
The next item on the agenda, we're going to go out of order again, and we are going to recognize Dr. Chuck Stead and ask him to come up and speak to us. Chuck is helping the town as a consultant on the Salt Box program, and it's an environmental initiative, and also has been working with the town for many years on the Ford Motor Company paint sludge cleanup that took place in the Torn Valley. Just so people understand, especially with the young audience here, there used to be a Ford assembly plant right where Sharp is in Mahwah, right on that where the crossroads are. And at the end of the shift, Ford would pay people to take barrels and barrels of paint sludge, a carcinogenic material, take it away and dump it. Just get rid of it. They didn't want to have to do the right thing environmentally. So tons and tons of this material was dumped along our river in the Torn Valley, right in the well fields where 40% of the water Rockland County emanates from. And so we were working with Ford, trying to stay out of litigation, which we accomplished, and we were able to get Ford to come in and clean it up. Ford is paid for the cleanup in the well fields. It was $18 million that they paid. They had to take out 40,000 tons of hazardous material from around our well fields. Now they are doing the second phase, which is called OS2, and that is going to be about another 18, maybe $20 million for the material that they found along the Torn Brook. And during this process, I can remember Chuck called me up one day very excited because he and some of his students at Ramapo College had found more paint sludge along the river in OS1, and that was cleaned up as well. And since then, I won't take your whole story, but you can pick it up from there about what's happened now with OS2.
OU2.
OU2. Yeah.
If you drive up the Torn Valley Road and go toward the Solid Waste Management Authority, and the big landfill is on the right, you will see on the left, if you're familiar with the area, infinitely fewer trees, because we've started the project there, and 700 trees have actually been cut down and are laying on the ground to be removed. And that area, which is a highly irregular area, a lot of different terrain in there, the excavation will start at the very end of March, beginning of April, and we expect, as the supervisor has told you, just as much paint to be pulled out of there. This is lead paint with a lot of other carcinogenic compounds, a lot of VOCs, both volatile organic compounds in it, and it can access the groundwater. So the town has done an amazing piece of negotiation, and not litigation, which is what was happening in Ringwood. Ringwood has a very similar situation, but they are not handling it at all well right now, and it's been going on for years. You may have heard what the Ramapo Indians go through up in Ringwood. That's what is happening up there. My students have been at Ringwood CAG meetings, Citizen Action Group meetings, and they've been at town meetings in Ringwood at the borough. And I'm very happy to have them here, because what we have here is a functional municipality when it comes to this issue. And the board deserves a tremendous amount of credit, the supervisor certainly a tremendous amount of credit, because it's a long process regardless, and it involves a lot of meetings and a lot of negotiation and a lot of work on the part of the students. So if you'll let me, I just want to acknowledge my students who are here.
We should have them come up here. So
Come on up, guys.
See 'em.
Come on up. You can come up. It's okay, Trish. Come on, you can come up. These are all
Stand right
students.
here in the well. And,
Stand in the well, but don't fall in the
we
well.
want everybody at home to see that.
These are students from Ramapo College. Monica's looking at me like, you didn't tell me I was going to get up. Turn around so folks
You'll
can
go
see
right
you.
down the line from Marlin right on down, right?
Yes, I will. So on the end there is, well, now you changed the order. I had it all written down here. Marlon Becker, he's an environmental studies major. And next is Monica Kroll. Her major is social science and cultural anthropology, and she also does a minor in food sustainability. And then we have Isabel Ariach. She's an environmental studies major, and she also has a minor in food studies. And then we have Thomas Chapella. He's an environmental studies major and public policy minor. And finally, Trish Gunzy, and she's an environmental science major. And over here to my right is Kara Graham. And she just graduated over the break between the two terms. She's a biology major with a minor in environmental science. And we have two things that we want to present to the supervisor and to the board, because we're so very happy. Success is happening. I don't know if you appreciate this. This is historic. Success is happening on the New York side of the paint sludge issue, and it continues to happen. And I want to acknowledge the board, so we have a couple of, there's the Salt Box, the 200-year-old building that we rebuilt with the town, and that's where we teach a lot of our courses out of. And we had some extra pieces of wood there. So we have, it's a little heavy, Chris. We have some 200-year-old timber frame, and on it is a lid. This is one of the 55-gallon drum lids that they throw the paint out in. It was found at the site. I can give it to you because it's not contaminated. We've sealed it. We feel it feels very different. And we wrote paint drum lid found in Torn Valley in 2007 at Ford Paint Removal Site. Presented to Christopher St. Lawrence and the Ramapo Town Board for their ongoing support of the cleanup, February 2015.
You know,
Now, but
just like those golfers.
but the jacket. Oh, that's what you say.
Those golfers. You know, what is great about this, Chuck, is this is a representation of what's happening in the Torn Valley, because it's a really post-industrial degradation that's taking place there over the years, and this really symbolizes it. Should I keep it in my office? Should I put it in the salt box?
No, I want you to hang it up. I want everybody to see this. And the reason I'm saying that is what's going on in Ringwood is so awful. And there's a lawyer from the Environmental Justice Center up there, and he heard that down in Ramapo, this is what's going on here. Not litigation, but negotiation to get Ford to do the right thing. And he said to me, you guys must be very proud of your town board. You must be very proud of your supervisor. We had Kara and myself came on Chris's show, and Chris was pleased with Kara here, and he said to Kara, would you make me a little display so people can see what this stuff looks like? So we have another thing here. It's a tabletop display, and it has two pieces of paint sludge found up in Torrent Valley, and it says, paint sludge samples taken from Ford Motor Company dump site in Torrent Valley in 2013. 42,000 tons of similar toxic waste was removed by Ford from the well field at a cost of $15 million there, because the later costs weren't added in yet. In 2015, the ongoing cleanup by Ford will produce similar results. The project is possible through the support of Christopher St. Lawrence and the Ramapo Town Board. So here, you should have it. He asked you to make that.
See, it's got some old wood there.
That's, again, very, very old wood.
Wood from the 1700s.
Yes, yes.
You know, Chuck always has great ideas and really thinks about going out 6, 7 generations and what we do, how it affects going out into generations. And part of the cleanup we did in the Torn Valley also incorporated something that the Ramapo Lenape Indian Nation, which is an indigenous Indian population here in the town of Ramapo, what they wanted, and that was a healing garden. Something that would demonstrate that this project was not only cleaning up the well fields, but it was healing the earth from the degradation that had taken place there. So we convinced Ford, a little kicking and screaming at times, to help us and to fund putting in a herbal garden and special sweet grasses, and we had the ceremony this past summer, and it was just absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
And we had many tribes from upstate New York where they're going through some really, really tough situations with General Electric and other corporations that are poisoning the waters and the environment in upstate New York. And they were so pleased at what we were doing. But there's one piece of all of this on the environmental side. I know some of you have some food majors, and I know you have a public policy minor, is that there's also a medical side to this that is a hidden side. We've had meetings right here in this room with New York State, and we haven't been able to get the New York State Health Department to really step up to the plate and do an epidemiology study, because there are generational issues with our indigenous population of cancers and mutations and of all sorts because of the material that Ford had put there. So we really need to finish by having that study done and to get the reparations that we need for that. And I know you've been working on that as well, John. But if you haven't been to the Saltbox House, has anybody seen this? Any of your kids been to the Saltbox House? We're taking a tour.
Taking a
Coming to
tour.
your class next Wednesday morning, right? And then
Bringing you up.
when the weather breaks a little bit, or even anytime, we'll bring a bus over and we'll take you up to the Torn Valley and show you the Saltbox House. And because
Field trip.
about a dozen years ago, a house was being torn down in the Torn Valley. It was an old house of old workers from the old iron mines there and mills. And Chuck protected that house. It was going to be raised. It was from 1791, the year the town became incorporated into a town. And Chuck saved that himself. He stored it away, and then in upstate New York, in Chester, New York, and then when that barn was going to be taken down, you had to have a place to put it. We moved it into the Torn Valley and into the old waste management building, and then we reconstructed, or you reconstructed it in the Torn Valley where it sits now. So it's just a great example of what's taking place in the Torn Valley. So this I will gladly display right in the hallway, so people who come to the town hall can see this, and I'll put that in my office.
Great.
And I want just the people at home to come up and take a look at what you're doing there in the Torn Valley, because it's really a big change. It really is.
And again, I want to thank Mr. St. Lawrence, the supervisor, and the town board. I've been to a lot of other sites, not just Ringwood. I've been in a lot of other towns. I was up with the Akwesasne Indians along the St. Lawrence. It's a rare town board that actually puts its feet to the ground and does the work that needs to be done to get industry to come back and do what they need to do. And you guys, all of you, deserve a big hand. The reason Kara made this particular display was because Kara and Tom Chappella, the two of them, I was teaching them, we do a lot up at the Saltbox. I was teaching them tracking, and they were tracking mink. And while they were looking for where the mink was wandering along the Tornbrook, they found paint sludge in an area that Ford managed to overlook. And just like the earlier site, Ford has a tendency to avoid the paint that's closest to the water because it's the hardest to extract, and it costs the most because of all the precaution that you have to put into actually extracting paint from the water. And the two of them found it, so we filmed it, we taped it right away, we measured it. It was about, I think, 40 feet square, and we found a good deal of paint. And it's not in an easy place to get it out either, so it'll cost some to go and extract it, but thanks to you, they will do it.
I remember about a dozen years ago, maybe 10 years ago, we had an event at Suffern Library.
Oh, yeah.
And we had some media there, and I was holding up the paint sludge and all that, and Chuck kept giving me the elbow and going, no, you should not be touching that. He had gloves on.
I had gloves in my pocket, remember? Yeah. So if you see stuff like this when we have the display out there, you guys definitely look at it. There is more paint out there. This is an ongoing story. There are trails in Ringwood in the state park where hikers have discovered paint buried in the trails in land that was donated to Ringwood. So this is an ongoing story. We always want to keep a watchful eye, and when we find more, we can get Ford back. We can bring them back. It's not like they can't come back. If we legitimately find it, they set the precedent by removing it, we can get them back. So
Well,
this is a
Chuck,
good thing.
One last thing, and that is that we appreciate the work that you do for us, and we believe, I know that Cornell has been defunding projects around the state, Cornell Cooperative, and so we're going to be asking you to spend more time and to do more work for us here in the town of Ramapo, and also to incorporate setting up an entire archives library for all the studies on water, water flow, water quality throughout the county of Rockland. And we have some people, Phil Bosco from Clarkstown is going to be donating a large bit of material. I think that you may have some things from Betty Hedges and from maybe Eleanor Burlingham, who were early environmentalists here in this town. And we are going to really bring together all that material so it's in one place and can be properly
That'd be great.
Made available to future generations. So we'll be asking you to do that.
Well, if you're getting me, you're getting them too.
All right, it's a deal.
Field work, guys. It's where it's at. Field work. Thank you.
raise them now. I'll put a balance here, so good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We also have with us a couple guests here, and so I want to recognize, we have two elected officials here from Suffern, Mr. Marconis and Mr. Hagan. And they're on the village board in Suffern, and Roy Schutte, who has been working with the town to do everything we can to help the people in Squires Gate with the flooding that's taken place there. So there are different aspects to water. There's water quality, there's a need for water, and then there's also water management and when it comes to flooding. So we are moving forward on what we can do to utilize the quarry as a flood mitigation project. So, okay, so let's see. Let's go right back to the agenda. The next will be the acceptance of the minutes from our regular meeting of April 9th.
Withers?
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously. Next is the acceptance of the minutes for regular meeting of February 11th.
Withers?
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Friedman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. And for the regular meeting of February 19th, 2015, moved by Councilman Friedman, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is the Town Attorney, Michael Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. The first four resolutions involve acceptance of proposals. The first of these is for excess liability coverage. This has been recommended by our insurance consultants, LeBaum and Company, and this is with Great American E&S Insurance Company.
Withers?
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Our general liability insurance is the subject of the next resolution. This is a package that's provided by Trident, is the company. It's again been recommended by LeBaum and Company, and we've had a similar coverage for a number of years with the same company.
Moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by
Withers?
Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
We have received a proposal by GHD Consulting Services for a sanitary sewer study. The cost of this will be $124,850, and that's the subject of this resolution.
Withers?
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Supervisor St. Lawrence. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
The last proposal is also insurance-related. This provides insurance coverage for the town for its property and equipment coverage. There are two companies involved here. The basic coverage is being provided by Hudson Excess, and the excess coverage is provided by a company called One Beacon.
Withers?
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Friedman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. I was just thinking, Michael, before you go to the next item on the agenda, the settlement of claims. When, Chuck, we were doing that first project, I think it's important to note with young people here, we brought on an intern, Miss Madakovich, came on as an intern. She became certified in the removal. You took her to the classes, and she became certified, and she worked on that project for that entire summer and into the fall. And because of that intern, she was then hired by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. So it's fantastic.
What I was stressing when I said the field work is where it's at. There's so many people graduating that what they look for is what you did outside the classroom. And if it connects to your course of study, that becomes the flag. Okay, you're the one we want to look at. You're the one we want to talk to. So field work is really, really very valuable right now in terms of the job.
Absolutely, and it adds right to that resume, and so it's a great thing that she got that job. Okay, Michael.
One of our police vehicles was involved in an accident causing damage to the vehicle. The next resolution settles the town's claim for reimbursement for damage to the police car. The damage was $403.86, so that's the amount of the reimbursement.
Withers.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
We have one tax certiorari settlement on tonight's agenda. The property owner is Tilu Muller. This involves property at 16 Howard Drive, which is residential vacant land. As a consequence of this settlement, there'll be a required town tax refund of $16.75.
$16.75
Yes.
is the refund. Okay.
Withers.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by
$16.
Councilman Friedman. Usually when it's $16, there's a lot of discussion. The $124,000, okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
And finally, we have a resolution settling a negotiated disciplinary matter with a town employee.
Moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by
Withers.
Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. We've done the personnel, the police item, the 4A on the agenda, authorization for 6 officers to attend the NYTOA Tactical Conference in Verona, New York, April 28th to 30th.
Withers.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Finance, Nat. The Deputy Director of Finance, Nat Oberman.
We have a request for a grant for the Jewish war veterans for $4,000 that we had, what we share with them when they have their concerts, and very, very valuable operation.
Okay, moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Friedman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Nat. Next on the agenda is purchasing. Our Director of Purchasing, Mona Montal.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Item 6A1 on the agenda is the acceptance of the bid for the repair of Camp Scuffy Pool. We're asking you to accept the bid for Ray Palmer Associates in the amount of $56,800 as listed in the resolution.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. This will allow us to repair the pool at a cost of $56,000 and have it ready for Camp Scuffy for the summer camp program. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Item 6A2 on the agenda is the acceptance of bids for the purchase of pesticides. You'll see there are a variety of companies. This is based upon the recommendation of Dan Madar. I'm asking you to accept the bids as listed in your resolution.
Withers.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. I want to thank Deputy Supervisor Withers for the work that he does on the Golf Advisory Committee and keeping the golf course in such great shape. And I also want to mention that the pesticides that we're using at the golf course are part of an integrated pest management system, and the golf course has consistently received awards from the Audubon Society and other groups because we are working at that golf course to make it a sanctuary for animals. So we had the great red-tailed hawk, we get a lot of fox. I don't know if we have any mink there, Chuck, but we may have to have you come over and do a study for all of the animal life we have there. We do have mink there as well. That's great. And not people wearing them. We don't believe in wearing mink. We believe mink should be running around. So all those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Item 6A3 on the agenda is the acceptance of bids for the purchase of fertilizer. Once again, we're asking you to accept those vendors that were recommended to you by Dan Madar, the golf course superintendent, as listed in your resolution.
Withers.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Parks and Recreation. Item 7A, authorization for 2 employees to attend the playground inspection safety course in Honolulu. Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. I want to see if people were paying attention out there. Moved by
Withers.
Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Next is adoption of the golf course rates. There'll be no raise in the fees at the golf course this year. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Authorization, highway, this is 8A, authorization to install no parking signs on Walter Drive.
Withers.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by
Friedman.
Councilman Friedman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Item 8B, authorization for 2 highway employees to attend the Cornell Local Roads Highway School in Ithaca, New York, May 31st through June 2nd.
Withers.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by
Friedman.
Councilman Friedman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Item number 9A, a resolution of support. This is a resolution of support by the town of Ramapo requesting the removal of the PCBs from the Hudson River. Moved by
Withers.
Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by
Friedman.
Councilman Friedman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Dedication of the streets at Z&G Partnership.
Withers.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Any new items?
Did
Councilman?
we do 4A, or did we skip that?
We did that.
Yep, we did that.
Okay.
It was another test for us, Pat.
Yes.
Next, we'll have public participation. Anybody in the public like to speak? Roy, come right up.
Hi, good evening. Roy Chudy, 16 Lonigan Drive in Suffern, New York. I want to thank you for letting me have the opportunity to address the board and the supervisor. Before I address what I'd like to, I would like to ask the board and the supervisor a request. Prior to the pledge, or directly after, when you do the pledge, I would submit that if you can do a moment of silence just for those who are serving our country currently and those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. I think just a 5 seconds out
I
of
think
your time.
it's a great idea, and at our last meeting, we did become a Purple Heart town, and we had Howard Golden was here, and so we are proud that we are going to be flying the Purple Heart flag in the locations around the town as well, and we will take that moment, that pause. Thank you.
Thank you for that. What I would like to address, my point of interest is we had spoken 2 months prior to about the quarry and the fact that the town was good enough to have submitted a request for a grant for $5 million to implement the siphoning plan that was designed by Brooker Engineers. Again, that's been a year and a half, and I liken putting in for a grant the same as going to synagogue or church, and that you're hoping and praying that you get it. And obviously, this little prayer is not going to be answered, in my view. So we also discussed about moving ahead, and you had suggested that a bond issue could be presented for the amount of $5 to $6 million that would begin the process. So on behalf of especially the community that I represent and live in, the Squires Gate community, which has been notoriously hit with floods and the expenses incurred, it's probably cheaper to go ahead and do this with a bond than not to do it, because the cost is astronomical and more than just dollars and cents. It's, as you all know, how lives are impaired. So I would ask if that would be taken up with the board and hopefully passed and move on with that. Again, you see the spring will be bringing rains, and the snow is melting, and it helps exacerbate an already ongoing problem. So basically, you're our last hope. You're our last hope, because nobody else, nobody is doing anything, whether it's the government, or the Army Corps, you name it. We've applied, we've asked for help. Nothing's happened. The town is our last hope.
Thank you, Roy. I just have to
Thank you.
respond just quickly, because I was born and raised in Suffern, and I grew up by Utopian Avenue down by the Suffern Pool, and that's when they were building the New York State Thruway. And I remember going to the Suffern Village Hall with my mother, dragging me along when I was a little kid, complaining about the rocks coming over and landing on top of our house when they were blasting for the Thruway. So I can remember when they started to take away Union Hill, which is where the quarry is. That used to be a mountain there in Suffern. And I can remember when my father was the assemblyman, going to Suffern Village Hall. Mayor Rice was the mayor at the time, and I was a young kid, and my father saying, "Do not build in Squires Gate. It's a floodplain. Those people will be flooded out forever." And they didn't listen to him, but we have seen what has happened. People get flooded out all the time. And this town board is taking the step and the action to do something about it. So we've made it very clear that the quarry is going to be for flood mitigation. We put in that grant for $5 million. If we spend any money on it before we know about the grant, the grant would be disallowed. So we're waiting. The DEC has spoken about the grant. They are in favor of it as well. And we will take action toward the end of the year if we can't get this money. But we're pretty hopeful. We're still praying. Maybe we need to do more penance or more confession or something, I don't know, to get more points there with the Almighty, but the Almighty in Albany. But we think that we will be successful. Mike Riley has done an incredible job, our intergovernmental agency person, on getting that grant at the top of the pile. Congresswoman Nita Lowey, Congressman Elliot Engel, even Congressman Freelandheisen from Passaic in New Jersey, who's on the head of the Army Corps. Just on Monday, just so you know, I had a meeting with Harry Cornell, who's heading the Water Task Force, and we spoke particularly about this issue, the quarry, and getting the Water Task Force to join with us with the Army Corps, and I've requested the Army Corps to come up and really get this project looked at again and hopefully funded. So we are dedicated to making this happen. You know, it was our idea to come up with a way that we could utilize this. We hired Brooker Engineering as part of the RFP process on the whole quarry site. We came up with the idea of these siphons that will siphon the top of the flood off. It will take the people in Squires Gate and put almost 100% of the people into a 25-year floodplain versus what they are now, which is just the floodplain. So I'm always worried when we get into hurricane season because I know what's going to happen. The people in Squires Gate are going to get flooded out. They're going to lose all of their possessions. All their possessions will be water-soaked and on the streets.
Yeah.
You've seen it too many times, Roy.
Yeah.
You've seen it. And we're going to make something happen. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate the two members of the village board who are here. And I really particularly appreciate their enthusiasm for it. And I asked Mr. Konis if he would be our liaison to work with us. So when we have that meeting with the Army Corps, I'll certainly notify you and Mr. Hagan too. So we're moving, Roy.
Just one last thing. When I've spoken with Mr. Richard Lord, who is for the New York State OEM, they won't give you a criteria. I've asked, I said, how are you determining, because they do get a lot of requests for grant money. So I asked, they said, well, we're looking at it. We get a lot of requests. That's their answer. And I said, well, what's your criteria based on, I mean, we can show you, that the town of Ramapo can show you that we have an answer for the flooding.
For 246, how many homes? 290 homes?
About 240 now.
240.
Because as you know, 4 were
We
taken
lost,
down.
right, 240.
And others will probably be taken down if there's another flood. But they won't tell you a criteria. So that's why I'm saying after a year and a half, can you give me? I tell them, can you give us a time, increment? Do you do it by alphabet? Do you do it by county? We can't tell you. We can't tell you. So all I would like to know is a criteria. I'd like to see where we are on the list. He did say that we were number 6. Well, I said, that's wonderful if it's 6 out of 8, but if it's 6 out of 100, what good is that doing us? And that's all. They played very close to the vest, and trying to get information out of them is like going to the CIA. So that's the reason I'm making the formal request.
It certainly is a consideration of this board to go ahead with some bonding if we are not successful with the funding. You know, they say play close to the vest. Sometimes they get in your vest. We had money that was assigned to the town out of the federal budget And the Army Corps took it away when the Mississippi
Yeah.
had its problems, and they wanted to dredge the Mississippi during the past drought. And so they took all the money that was going to other projects, including ours, and took it away. But we reminded them of that as well. So I really do think we're going to be successful.
And I just want to say thank you to you and the board for all that you have done on our behalf. And again, the town is been great for us. They're the ones that have stepped up. And as a resident of this area, I just would like to express my appreciation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much for having us. First of all, I'd like to thank the supervisor for putting together that meeting last month. I think it was very helpful, and the people in the village really appreciate your help. We would like to continue this effort going forward. As you stated, everything sounds good, but we need to have some further action taken, and we look forward to working together with you and the Army Corps, and whatever you need from us, we're here.
And personally, I want to thank you personally for your efforts and what you were doing and standing up and making yourself available to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, did you want to say anything?
Everything makes sense. I'm all for it. Thank you for helping us.
You're going to get reelected. That's how politicians should learn that. The shorter is better. Thank you. Thank you, Frank.
I just want to take a minute, Supervisor. I, like you, grew up at 120 Washington Avenue in Suffern. And in fact, some of the areas that Roy raised his children in, the areas that you know, Frank and Pete and Ed. No, but no, behind you, I knew those people when they knew I had hair and I was skinny. But Squires Gate was the area where a lot of kids played. A lot of families came up from the Bronx in the city at the time, and Squires Gate was a who's who at one time. You had the Ginleys, and you had the Diadamos, and you had a lot of nice families that were down in that area. And you know, Roy, my heart goes out to you because the supervisor, myself, and the town board has walked that area and see you out there every single time there's a flood or a hurricane or you're out there. And my heart breaks for you because you're out there and you're trying to still keep up the fight with the neighbors who have lost hope and saying, we're out of here. I do appreciate it, and I'll speak on behalf of the entire board, that you do recognize the board's efforts. My frustration is, your frustration there is that you're reaching out to state agencies that the supervisor and this board has no control of. Federal agency, all I applaud to you do is that you keep those fights up to those phone calls, and with the village assistance, keep up your county pressure, keep up your state representatives, and you have our commitment through the supervisor being a leader that we'll do the best we can here. Because like the supervisor said one time, he says, I will not walk around going through Lonigan Drive and Temple and those areas again without coming up with a resolution. He gave his commitment to me, walking with him hand in hand with Congressman Engel and Senator Carlucci. And he said, I've seen enough here, something has to be done. So, but with the frustration is that, you know, I'm sure the Sherrings don't want to see it as well. So, you know, so we have to keep up the work and keep the pressure up what you're doing for your civic duty. You got to call the senator and the assembly people. You got to keep it up. You know, there's a lot of issues on the town board, and we're doing our best. And you know, we just spent $400 and something thousand that's matched by FEMA down by the quarry there in the entrance of the quarry, and the Army Corps of Engineers and through the and through FEMA engineers, is that part of that design there, people don't realize it is to stop the flow to washing you right out. People are asking me, why isn't it curved instead of it's going right to like a 90-degree angle? Well, that's designed purposely to slowing it down, the water flow. So people are looking at me like, oh, why'd you do it that way? And I'm like, well, because I'm trying to help out Squires Gate with the town board. So that's part of some of it. I mean, people not really realizing, but that is a project that's through this town board and through the supervisor's leadership. He put me assigned to it. Is that we're doing the best we can, but keep up your phone calls. They're not annoying. Keep calling them.
Well, I think some people think this. I'm just grateful there's no grassy knoll where I live. I think I would
Yeah, I apologize, Mr. Supervisor. I just wanted to say that because I do remember walking with you, and you said, Pat, and Congressman Engel was right next to us, and the young senator, and he says, "I will not walk this Squires Gate again and not have an answer for these folks." So we're hoping that we could do it before it happens, you know?
Absolutely. Did you want to address us? Come right up.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members. My name is Lisa Dorsley, and I am a Town of Ramapo resident. I live specifically on 5 Long Ridge Court off of Route 45 here. And I contacted the Town of Ramapo several weeks ago in regard to these 2 properties on Route 45. Specifically, they're 372 Route 45. And they're burnt down homes. From what I was told, I hear the local fire department had used them as some type of demo property to train their firefighters. And when I reached out to the Town of Ramapo, I was told that, well, several residents had made complaints about that, and one of, my complaint specifically was that in my neighborhood, there are several property owners that are trying to sell their homes. And, newcomers coming to the area, seeing these eyesores of property standing there, I just felt like it would not give the perception of a neighborhood, that what it deserved. And calling the Town of Ramapo, I was told that, well, they've heard about it and maybe we should go ahead and do some petitions.
No. Whoever you spoke to didn't know what they were talking about.
Okay.
I'm so glad, Lisa, that you're here.
Right. Well, I'm not, there's a whole
I'll
line of
explain to you
stories.
what a little bit about that. That's 372, 376 Route 4, North Main Street, which is Route 45.
Right, but-
And
okay.
right across from Teokan.
Yeah.
And that was a property that was owned by a landlord who was running illegal housing there. We took him to court. We were able to take the property away from that person. He paid some heavy fines. We took ownership of that property. The local development corp took ownership of that property. And then we sold the property last March, a year ago, to the Hillcrest Fire Department. And they are building a brand-new firehouse on that property.
Right, Mr. Supervisor.
And so, as part of them on the demolishing of what was there, they used it as a drill. And they now have, I think, all of their funding in place, and I think they've been doing some testing. And I agree with you. The way it looks right now, if you were new to the community, come in, you'd go, that's just ridiculous.
Right.
Why are they somebody doing
Scare
something?
newcomers away.
So I will get a timetable and I will call you.
Right.
Lisa, what's your? Would you give your number to the clerk, or you don't need to
Sure.
give it out over the air? Just
Sure.
give it to-
I just also wanted to go on and say that I can't, I spoke to Councilman Friedman, and he directed me of what I should do. And I also spoke to Mr. Thomas Buckley, who was very...
Our fire chief.
Yeah, he
Our
was...
fire inspector.
He was really, as far as just addressing the issue, he contacted me immediately. And I said, you know what, guys, I don't know what your plans are, but I hope that something is going to be happening. But for the meantime, for people who are coming into the area who are not familiar with the politics or whatever's going on around here, maybe a courtesy sign just to say
I
what's
agree
going
with
on.
you.
And it happened. It happened, and I wanted to say thank you, actually. Mr. Buckley was, he was responsive as far as, paying attention to the situation. And I guess what I was asking from you guys, long story short, is, I guess, a follow-up as far as when will we get things done for that particular area? Because I know it's starting to get warmer
I
now.
know,
so.
Lisa, that they went out to bid, and the company, Helmer Cronin out of Stony Point, won the bid. Mr. Bill Helmer, they built the St. Lawrence Center. I know they do great work. They have an architect from Long Island. I saw the plans. It's going to be a very nice building. I'm concerned for you as a neighbor, and I've received some letters from people, and I believe even the planning board has talked about this, about whether or not they're going to have a big siren there that's going to blast. And they, under the law now, you don't have to have those sirens, because people can be contacted through the platform, a mobile platform, so of all types. So we're working on that issue as well. So I think we're
Thank you.
close. I'm going to find out when they expect to be breaking ground and when they are going to take down those buildings, because they did that fire drill a long time ago.
Right.
And it's been
That's
sitting
why
there,
it was-
and it looks even worse than it did.
Yeah, I was like,
prior,
I don't
so-
think they're going to re-burn it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how that would work, but I just wanted to say thank you and a special shout out to Thomas Buckley for being responsive about
Thank you.
that.
And we give Chris your phone number? Thank you very much, Lisa. Anyone else that would like to address this? Mr. Romanowski, come right up.
Mm-hmm. 6-9. What's your
Robert
address?
Romanowski, 183 Maple Avenue, Muncie.
Long Ridge?
When the town started its project at Elm Street, the town purchased the property for the project and then gave the property to the Aramapo Local Development Corporation, who became the new owner of the property. The project now has been pretty much constructed. It looks like it's almost done. I think that most of the units have been sold. But part of the transfer of the property from the town to the LDC must reimburse the town $3,080,000 for the underlying property value of the homes that are at Elm Street. And I'd like to know what the status of this is. Has this money been paid back? Has some of it been paid back? If so, how much? And when do you expect to complete making this entire payment back to the town of Ramapo? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romanowski. The Elm Street project was 8 acres or so of property that were purchased by the town and put over to the Ramapo Local Development Corp. For the purpose of building affordable housing and market rate, below market rate housing for the people in the community. The value of the amount of property that's being used for the housing is 44% of the site. So the local development corp is reimbursing the town 44% of the original purchase price, which is $3,080,000. And to date, in 2014, the local development corp paid $580,000 down on that. So the balance now, Robert, is $2,500,000. There are 132 units of housing there, 11 buildings with 12 units in each. All 132 units have been sold, have contracts of sale. We have occupied and closed on 110 of those units, so there are 22 units remaining to be sold, that are sold but remaining to be closed. The balance to the Provident Bank, we borrowed and the town guaranteed almost $30 million, and the local development corp has now paid back about 34 of that 37 million. We owe on the construction now, we paid back about 90%. We owe $2,773,000. And that next units, I think it's the next 7 or 8 units will pay off the bank. Then the next 6 or 7 units will pay off the town of Ramapo. And then the remaining units will then go to the Ramapo Local Development Corp. For future bond payments, which will be a little bit over $3 million in free cash flow. So the project has been fantastic. This year, the Local Development Corp. On that project has paid down their debt of almost $9 million in this past year out of from selling those units. So it has been a win-win. Our goal originally was to have a housing project that could help to pay for the financing and the building of the Provident Bank Park, which is the other initiative of the Development Corp., and that's what we've been able to do. So the $32 million that it cost to build the ballpark, we have now paid off in 2014, $8 million of that. When I say we, I mean the Ramapo Local Development Corp. That's not taxpayer dollars for any of the principal or interest or any of the costs for borrowing. The town has guaranteed that, but the town has not had to put up one penny of taxpayer dollars for any of that guaranteed debt. And we think that with the success of this project, and I know we've spoken here on the board about having other projects in the future so that we can continue to have that going along. So that's where we are, Robert. Thank you. Okay, motion to close the public participation. Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Meeting in honor of Cardinal Egan and also in honor of Robert Ben Moshe. Thank you all very much.